We're going to start over right now.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual co-host and do not reflect the official policy or position of the Firearms Radio Network and or their employers. Viewer discretion is advised. This is especially true on our live shows.
Broadcast for shooters, hunters, and gun enthusiasts. This is the Firearms Radio Network. The bandwidth for this episode of This Week in Guns is sponsored by Patriot Patch Company. PatriotPatch.co.
Welcome to This Week in Guns. This show is brought to you by the Firearms Radio Network and Patriot Patch Company.
And this show offers commentary on the latest firearms industry news, information, and buzz. I'm your host, Sean Herron. It is my pleasure to introduce our panelists tonight. Coming back with us, we've got the Joshes, YouTubers Josh Courtney and Josh Hutchinson from Black Diamond Guns and Gear and also Black Diamond Holsters. Joshes, I feel like I haven't seen you in months.
Yeah, man, it's been such a long, 15 hours.
Exactly. Welcome back, boys. Next up, we've got Albuquerque concealed carry instructor at Practical Defense Training and adjunct instructor for Silver Mountain Instruction. He's also one of the hosts of the After Action Project on the Firearms Radio Network. Andy Montoya, welcome to your first time on This Week in Guns.
Thanks, man. I appreciate being on here. And by the way, the After Action Project is the best podcast around, just saying. So you guys got to hop on over.
There you go. There you go. All right, guys, Patriot Patch Company, you know them, you love them, patriotpatch.co. Go support Jake and Ryan and all the great things that they do. Get the Patch of the Month Club. I highly recommend it. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's get directly into the stories. The first one is no jail time for parent that pointed out lack security at child's school. This guy rolls into the school with a cardboard or a printed gun or something like that says the word gun on it, gets buzzed in, and then bypasses the office, walks directly into his child's classroom and tells the teacher, "You just let a gunman into your school." He recorded the incident on his iPad, left the school building, and was later arrested by police. Man, who wants to go first?
I just don't understand. He had a mask on, or ski goggles, right? Is what it said, right?
Ski goggles, yes.
So ski goggles on. This dude comes in, and they're just fucking buzzing him in like he's just skiing down the hallway. Like, what are they thinking?
I mean, his kid does go there. Maybe they just recognize him. They're like, "Oh, hey, there's Bill or Jonathan."
That's just Steve with some goggles on.
Yeah. Oh, hey, look, Jonathan's an idiot. He's got goggles on.
I do understand where he went with that. I kind of say, hey, look, he's pointing out the lack of security in the school. He's doing that, but there could have been different ways to do that.
Yeah, I feel like maybe having a discussion on how easy it is, something like that. But then again,
he went straight for it. Hey,
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't mention in the article, but maybe he's already done that stuff. Like, I definitely don't want to condemn him. Andy, anything on this?
Yeah, it's just kind of the same thing. I was kind of confused at first. I'm like, okay, is this guy being a moron, just trying to push buttons, like the guys that carry AR-15s and targets openly, or is he trying to prove a point? And that's what I want to know, really. I wish we had more to that story, but yeah, the whole ski goggles deal, it'd be like, okay, is this dude always do weird stuff, or is this something out of the ordinary?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely great to point out inadequacies in our school systems, security plans, and things like that. This is definitely not the way to do it. He actually did plead guilty to disorderly conduct. No jail time, but 200 hours of community service to be completed within a year. And if it's not completed, he's going to face 25 days in jail. And well, I mean, I wonder
what they were getting him on for him to accept a plea of guilty of whatever he accepted.
Right. Yeah, totally 100% agree on that. Although I might plead guilty to something like this if I was trying to make a point and did so, and my max penalty was, 200 hours of community service. That
still sucks, but
yeah. Maybe ultimately this is all worth it. Maybe at the end of the day, he made a point and they'll do something from that point. He gets the 200 hours and the kids in that school end up being safer. You never know.
Or they'll just be like, oh, he's a crazy gun guy. Let's just forget about it and put some more laws in effect.
Yeah. Trump's going to go after cardboard guns next, guys. Zeke Stout leaves SDI for historical weapon making show. Finally, this is public, and I'm really glad to be able to talk about it. Zeke, formerly of the Talking Lead podcast, then he worked for the Sonoran Desert Institute for quite a while. He left SDI, I believe it was earlier this year, like December, January of last year, this year, and kind of recorded this in secret. It is a show on the Discovery Channel called Master of Arms, and it's basically a contest. They have 3 contestants every week, and those contestants build period-specific weapons that stand up to rigorous testing and judgment from a panel of experts. That panel is Ashley Lubinsky from the Cody Firearms Museum. Zeke Stout is the host of the show, and there's also a blacksmith named Trenton Ty. And I know Nicholas Irving, the Reaper. You may know him if you watched YouTube, stuff like that, especially Demolition Ranch. But he wrote a couple books. He was a former sniper. He's also heavily involved in it.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting. The series premieres November 2nd. Zeke will be on We Like Shooting on the Firearms Radio Network the day before that show goes live. And I'm really excited for him. Zeke is a fantastic human being and a really, really close friend. And I'm super excited.
That's awesome. Is it? It sounds to me like that. It's a lot like Forged from Fire, right?
Yeah, I've actually never seen Forged from Fire, but I do believe that it is a similar premise. They're just not
on the same network, right?
Discovery Channel. I don't know if it's the same.
No, I think the other one was on History.
Okay, so
but if it's going to be like that, dude, that is a cool ass show. I like it.
Yeah.
I watched Forge and Fire once, but to be honest with you, I kind of lost interest. But this show I'm excited about, because it's weapons, it's stuff we love a little bit more than, swords and stuff. And I'm pretty excited. So, Sean, I got a question for you because you kind of sounded like you knew that this was coming. You got any contestant secrets? Who's going to be on?
I cannot say or confirm or deny anything. But I can tell you that Firearms Radio Network and We Like Shooting are actually on the approved media list for the Discovery Channel for the show and stuff that comes out about the show.
Heck yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Congrats, Zeke. I can't wait to see what you do, man. I'm really excited for you. Did you guys meet him in Georgia at Iraq Veteran 8888?
I didn't. But I have seen him on Demolition Ranch, and he's a really cool dude.
All right. Love Zeke. Congrats, buddy. Next story, customer shoots man beating Starbucks employee. But wait a minute. I thought Starbucks requested that people don't bring firearms into their stores. Anyway, so there is a Starbucks employee. She's kind of standing at the place. A guy walks in, and instead of going in front of the counter to order, he walks behind the counter. He then says, "Do you know who I am?" She says, "No." And then he proceeds to beat her within an inch of her life. Ends up hitting her in the head with a metal tray. When she goes down, he starts kicking her in the back. And then she hears a gunshot. And she thinks, well, this is how it ends. I don't want to die like this. This is going to be a very painful way to die. Turns out later she hears the police talking about a concealed carry customer that drew his firearm because he feared for her life or serious bodily injury. And he shot the assailant one time in the chest. Man stumbled outside. Police are called. Police show up. They tase him to get him under control, then realize he's suffering from a gunshot wound to the chest. And at that point, in the article, they go talk about the customer and how he's a daily customer. He always orders a coffee. She knows exactly what he orders. He was a very meek and polite individual. She had no idea he was a concealed carrier. And she is very happy today that he is a concealed carrier. And I totally understand that. She was faced with the real life violence of a deranged criminal, and a concealed carrier possibly saved her life or kept her from being beaten even worse. Thoughts?
Well, it sounds like he did it right. Oh, it sounds like to me he did it right as a concealed carry holder. No one knew he was doing it. I don't know if you guys watched the video or not, and I hate to be that one to look at somebody and say, you probably are a little anti-gun yourself. So, for me, Clint Smith has the old saying, how do you get somebody that's anti-gun to become pro-gun? Let them get the crap kicked out of them, and then they'll change their opinion. So, you know what? Sometimes these bad things happen, and maybe it'll change some opinions a few.
Yeah,
I can agree with it.
That's what I'm saying. I hope that maybe, I know this was a bad situation, and I feel for her and all that, but hopefully it changes her mind on somebody that is willing to carry a firearm to protect themselves and somebody else. Because he did so, and that's the way it should be.
Yeah, and go ahead.
Oh, it's just so I work for a company that we're vendors for Starbucks. We're in there servicing their equipment pretty often. And, the one thing that hit me is she said, everybody just froze and watch. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of the natural thing. People just freeze and watch. And if you generally look at the employees of Starbucks, do you blame them? Because I'd say probably 90% of them wouldn't know what to do even if they were in a fight anyway.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, that's the reason that she got the the crap beat out of her. The guy was like, Shh, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to beat the hell out of somebody, probably rob them, because nobody here knows how to fight and it's a gun-free zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Needless to say, you had the one concealed carrier that was like, you know what, I'm going to change,
what's really, really weird to me, though, is that the guy chose to drink Starbucks when everybody's talking about how Starbucks is, against hiring veterans and all sorts of stuff and all that stuff. I just wondered.
No, actually, they are hiring veterans. They've rolled out a huge platform to ensure that they're hiring tons of veterans, and I think this is to combat their negative stereotypes that they got when they requested that people don't have guns in there. Just like Andy said, all the people around her kind of did one of the 5 physiological effects of a traumatic incident: fight, flight, freeze, posture, and submit. A lot of them froze, and then when he hit her in the head with a steel tray, they went into flight mode and ran outside screaming for someone to help. Of course, no one thought, let's get a couple of people and just tackle this idiot or hit him with something or, stop him from trying to murder our coworker. But
those whipped cream cans that they have, they're pretty heavy. They can use those. But, the guy's last name was Overall. So I guess you don't mess with the guy whose last name is Overall.
No. The only thing that could have been better is if he was wearing overalls at the same time. Another point that I want to bring up is the police say that though he doesn't know for sure if the customer will face charges. And that is the crazy thing. Said he believes the shooting can be interpreted as self-defense, but guess what, guys? It's out of his hands. We all think he did the right thing. We all think he is indeed a hero, as Jim said, that he saved her life. And here's the thing is, no matter what, no matter how justified something we do is, we're always faced with the legal repercussions if we choose to pull a trigger with a gun pointed at another human being. And just a brief shout out to Second Call Defense. That's the insurance that they provide that specifically covers this kind of thing. And if he had this, they would pay for his attorneys, his bail, his defense, civil and criminal if he needs it. Crime scene cleanup, investigation, expert witnesses, all that stuff covered by SCD. Sign up today, firearmsradio.tv/SCD. And it does scare me when I see stuff like that in something that clearly seems to be self-defense. But they don't know. Maybe he will face charges. Maybe he won't. Don't leave your family in that kind of situation.
Yeah, real quick, Sean, on that is we had a student in our class. He works for the police department, and we were talking about second call defense because we always bring it up in our classes. And he actually brought up crime scene cleanup, and he's like, people don't understand how expensive that is for a company to come out and just one 40-gallon barrel for them to come in and put hazardous materials, $1,000 to $4,000 per barrel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got a family member that does that stuff, and it is ridiculously expensive and also very dangerous. There's a lot
Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah, somebody has to do it. A lot of companies try to make their employees do it, which is actually illegal. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Next
I
story.
was always told that, like when a shooting happened, let's say it happens at your house or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I was always told, like, obviously the police don't do it, the coroner doesn't do it. I heard that you are left with the decision to have cleaned up or clean it up yourself, right?
100%. Yeah. If it happens at your house, 100%, it's up to you to take care of it. And if it happens at a business, a lot of the companies try to make their employees clean it up, but that's against OSHA regulations.
Yeah, big F you to that.
Exactly. SIG makes ceremonial M17s to present to soldiers guarding the tomb of the unknown soldier. These are non-polymer versions. They're aluminum, billet aluminum, polished, high gloss, black. Just beautiful. That's the main reason that I kind of wanted to do this. And they basically announced that they're going to give them to all of the guard or the tomb of the unknown soldier. And pretty dang awesome. Special engravings. And again, the non-polymer version of the M17 is kind of beautiful.
Yeah, that's a pretty gun. I went through the video, and my daughter was here from getting off work, and we went through. And you know what's sad? Before we get into how beautiful this gun is, most of our younger generation don't even know what this old guard is and the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. They have no idea. And I showed my daughter, and she was pretty amazed about it. I really liked the gun. I loved everything they did. The one thing I wasn't a huge fan of is that 21-round extended magazine. And I get why they did it, for the 21 steps it takes, but they put 21 engraved in the 21 Roman numerals, and then they did 21 serrations. I don't know. I just personally, I didn't like that extended magazine on it.
Yeah, I mean, it'll still fit other magazines. This one just is special because it's extended and also has a polished aluminum base plate. But yeah, it kind of does look a bit funky, but I would own one of these in a second.
Oh yeah.
It's interesting. Josh's?
Oh, I definitely agree. I think that it's a beautiful handgun. I think that that it definitely fits with the old guard, like you were saying. I mean, it's definitely a beautiful piece of art. I do not know what they were carrying prior to that. Were they carrying Berettas, or were they carrying a 45?
That's a really good question. I don't know the answer to
I
that.
don't know, to be honest with you. But yes, especially like you said, the old guard. I actually got to visit Arlington and actually watch the changing of the guards and stuff like that, and talking about just a chilling. It's absolutely amazing. These guys are at the top of their game at everything that they do. I mean, from every movement to every it's absolutely amazing. It'll run chills through your body.
Every time I see anything on Discovery History or anything like that about this stuff, I'm always just kind of struck at like how respectful it truly is and how touching it is.
Yeah, me too. And they left nothing untouched on this gun. What really I loved the most was how they said that they used marble dust from the tomb for the sights. I thought that was pretty neat.
Yeah.
Oh wow! See, I didn't see that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Let's see. That article came to us from the Firearm blog. Definitely worth checking out and going and taking a look at the guns, the entire article, and the list of things they did. Republican senator wants to ban federal contracts for banks that virtue signal against the gun industry. So he singles out, I believe it was Citibank and scanning. It was Citi and Bank of America basically have eliminated a lot of business that they do with firearms industry. Senator John Kennedy, who's a Republican from Louisiana, introduced legislation to prohibit federal contacts with banks that end business with other lawful businesses over social policy. The bank, in an emailed statement, says that they adopted this policy because they believe it's a positive and balanced step to promote gun safety without undermining free markets or Second Amendment rights, which is complete hogwash, in my opinion. What do you guys think about this, Josh? I want to start with you guys.
Go ahead. I don't hear what you said.
Oh, he was talking about the banks. Basically, like you were saying, they're trying to take shit.
Yeah, they basically took they took away. They stopped doing business with gun related companies and things like that, and that's both Citi and Bank of America. And now this senator has introduced legislation to prohibit federal contracts with banks that do stuff like that.
So they're wanting to stop them from doing that?
Yes. So basically, what's happening is they're taking away funding from these different gun manufacturers and stuff like that, gun companies. Basically, it shouldn't matter where the money goes as long as you're getting
I mean, it's a free country.
Yeah, I mean,
Why does it matter?
It shouldn't matter as long as they're paying their bills, as long as they're paying their loans or whatever may it be. I mean, who cares what it's going to? It would be no different than an adult film place in California that's basically filming stuff that is against 90% of what all Christian people think about. What's the difference in a gun?
Yeah.
It's protecting lives.
Yeah.
So
I just don't think there's a difference. Money is money. It doesn't really matter
money's
where
money.
it goes. There's a lot of worse things out there than a gun company. You know what I'm saying? Like,
without question. I mean, gun company, they're doing something that's legal. It's a naturally given right to defend our lives against those who would take it. And Andy, what do you think?
Yeah, it's the same thing for me. At first, on the face of it, you're like, oh well, that's cool. He's trying to support it and yada yada. But overreach much, too much government and everything is not a good thing. And
Agreed.
Very often we see this with the left and the right, extreme pro gun guys, extreme anti-gun. It's bad on both ends. Where, oh hell yeah, let's do this. But what's got to be good for you, it's got to be good for the other guy too. And that's why we can't allow the government to get involved in this crap all the time.
I agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah. So, which brings up my next point. So first off, let me say that Citi and Bank of America, they can all eat it. Like, I condemn them to the highest regard. I would never do business with them because they are doing stuff like this. But let's not forget that this is kind of Operation Choke Point, brought to us by Obama's administration, former President Obama, his administration. And
Thanks, Obama.
Thanks, Obama.
yeah, I mean, this is all part of a big strategy that they've got going. However, we talked last week on this exact show about LA County saying that they didn't want that they wanted people to disclose their relationship with the NRA before LA County gives them any contracts. And it's kind of the exact opposite of this. I'm just government should not be involved in politics. Government, sorry, let me rephrase that. Government should not be involved in these kind of partisan politics because this is if Citi and Bank of America want to do that, that's fine. But LA County government should not be able to restrict people from bidding on jobs because they either put a bid in to build the border wall or are associated or have donated to the NRA in any way. And I don't think we should have legislation in here that prohibits federal contracts with these banks. If they've got the best deal for the government that's using our tax dollars to pay for it, then that's probably where we should put that money. It's virtue signaling, virtue signaling, virtue signaling. And it's just, it's got to stop at some point is my thought.
Yeah, you know,
in the chat says that it strikes me that if they want to, I can't read it now, it's not on there, but if, basically they should promote wanting to loan to gun companies, and then they would then in itself gain more money that way. That makes a lot of sense actually, because nobody's wanting to loan to them right now.
Yeah.
So if this company was just like, you know what, we back you guys, we support the Second Amendment, you would think that they would make all kinds of money.
You're getting all the 100% of the turnaround.
Yeah.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Sean, on one of your other shows, and I can't remember, I think it was We Like Shooting, you said, these anti-gunners are getting smart and they're sliding themselves into very, very strategic positions. That stuff scares me more than all the other people screaming and the Antifa guys and all that crap, because they're a lot smarter than a lot of us gun owners think they are.
Yeah, and we don't give them credit. And the worst, I mean, Sun Tzu, underestimating your enemy is one of the biggest mistakes you can make. And we've got to stop doing it because we are doing it at every turn. And they are smart, they are crafty, and they are figuring out ways to strip us of our naturally given rights.
True.
Mm-hmm.
Next story is an interesting one. Chicago police officer convicted in the murder of Laquan McDonald. His name is Jason Van Dyke. I think we've all seen this video. In fact, I know we've talked about it on this show before.
Yeah. In fact, it was on the last one that we were on.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, perfect. So basically, jury took barely 24 hours to find him guilty of second-degree murder and also a 16 counts of aggravated battery. And this is a tough one. We talked about this. We felt like, who knows? Don't want to armchair quarterback. Yeah, that's right. It was Matt DeVito and you guys.
Yep.
And awful. It doesn't feel like murder. It felt like a poor decision, but decisions have consequences, and every bullet we fire out of them.
This dude had a weapon.
A
First
knife.
of all, if you watch the video,
Mhm.
he's walking down the middle of the street like he's going to do some shit. He just, you can tell a posture from somebody when they got some stuff to do, like they got something on their mind. So he's walking down the street, flicks out the knife. You can clearly see the knife in his hand.
Yeah.
Flicks out the knife like he's going to do something, like come at me, or whatever, except for cops have guns. So so he shoots him. Now I think it hits him one time. He spins around. Then I think he gets a pelvic girdle shot, and then it takes him down to the ground. But he's still alive and moving at that point. Mm-hmm. And I take one from Jaeger's class. He says, shoot until you either change color or change shape. And I agree 100%. I would empty the mag in that dude too. If I was fearing for my life and it come in a stressful situation like that, I wouldn't stop at just one bullet to put him down. I would put him down on the ground until he quit moving, basically. And that's what I think this guy did, and I don't think he deserves to be commended or convicted for that.
Andy?
Yeah, I have a little bit different take on that. First of all, he's a law enforcement officer, and it's a little bit different for us versus civilians. He shot him 16 times. I mean, I don't know. Usually I back the police 100%, but when you call a strike, you got to call a strike. And for me, there was a couple things. So they mentioned on one of the videos, they had the dispatcher on there, and the dispatcher called for somebody with a taser. Mm-hmm. And then the second thing was when the SUV that the police officer was a passenger of, the driver said, no, don't shoot from here, or don't go from here because there's other officers in front of you. So that would make me feel on the jury that there was already intent that he was going to shoot this dude. And so they intentionally went around the other cop car, and then he drew his gun and fired. So I don't know. I agree. I don't think it should have been murder, but I think it was a bad choice and a big mistake.
Yeah.
Right.
And again, sorry.
What's the 21-foot rule?
Well,
Tooler drill.
Do what?
The Tooler drill.
Yeah. I mean, within 21 feet and somebody has a knife, they can get to you before you can shoot them.
before
Right.
you draw and fire well aimed shot into the center of exposed mass. Yeah. It's a it is a tough one. I see both sides of it. For an officer, I mean, look, end of the day, ultimately, I don't know why I'm saying end of the day so much right now, but ultimately, this is an individual that was not listening to officers' orders, that had a deadly weapon, and distance is not inclusive when using deadly force, or distance is not mandatory to take into account when considering the use of lethal force. And I don't know what it was specifically, but the police defense attorneys, I guess, did a worse job than the prosecutors did. I don't know, man. I'm kind of mad. Second degree murder. It feels ridiculous to me personally, and I don't agree with everything that happened. But
I don't agree that if somebody is completely on the ground, isn't moving at all, you shouldn't still shoot them. Like I'll say that. You know, I don't think that you should just pump rounds into somebody just because. I definitely don't agree with that. But I think if he is still moving when you're telling him to stop and you're telling him to put whatever he has in his hands down, at that point, if I'm shot once, I'm going to comply. If I'm not shot once, me personally, I'm going to comply regardless. So the fact that he wasn't complying at all and he was down on the ground, already shot, still had his hands on whatever he was doing, still moving a little bit, I don't blame him. I'd have shot him too.
Yeah. I mean, good alternating viewpoints there. I'm kind of stuck in the middle on this one. I don't necessarily agree with all the officers' decisions. I think if this dude had just actually listened and not been a criminal piece of crap, he wouldn't be dead right now. And second degree murder seems really, really excessive for this against an officer, against a police officer out on the streets every day. I don't think they're all 100% great, but I do support the police, and I know that they have an impossible job.
And it's Chicago too. So
yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry. I think I saw in another story, it was like, these cops, it shows you what can happen on a daily basis when these law enforcement officers go out there and they can, encounter some crazy stuff every single day.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, they're putting their life on the line, yet this guy gets murdered for doing his job. That's just ridiculous.
I agree. The Gun Shop Project leverages the power of gun stores to target suicide prevention. This is another thing from Vice. They've been doing gun content lately. They did a debate with Maj Toure and a lady named Chelsea from an anti-gun organization. The moderator of that was clearly biased towards the anti-gun side, and I thought the entire thing was pretty good. Maj took it away, ran away with it, and this is another Vice News where their reporter shows a heavy bias towards anti-gun side. But really, what this comes from Colorado Grand Junction, about 6 hours north of me. And the Gun Shop Project was established in Colorado in 2015 on the premise that it's more effective to work with the gun community to try to prevent suicide rather than against it. Efforts involve handing out literature about gun safety and suicide hotlines at shops. The NSSF has become associated with this and puts out some of the content and things like that. This video is hugely anti-gun with an extreme bias towards anti-gun. And I don't know. What do you guys think? Andy?
You know what? Again, it's another one of those. On the face of it, it sounds pretty cool. It's a good idea. Put a suicide prevention little spot on, gun shows and stuff like that. But the question is, does it change anything? Does it really do anything? If somebody's walking a gun show and they have thoughts of suicide, are they going to really stop at this thing and say, you know what, give me a pamphlet on suicide prevention? I just don't see anything other than it being a big, warm, fuzzy hug.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that. I mean, there's a lot you can do, but really, you can, put out these phone numbers for people to call. You can put up pamphlets. You can do everything you can. But at the end of the day, man, if somebody has in their head this is what they're going to do, then I don't think there's much you can do to stop them, unless you're there in the moment when they're trying to do it, and you can maybe try to talk them down.
I mean, there's signs to suicide. I mean, you can see it. I mean, that's not necessarily for the gun shop to know or wherever. It's for your family. Your family should be the ones that actually see this stuff happening. I mean, you're targeting the wrong people.
I agree with that.
If you're targeting a gun store, you're targeting the wrong people. They're just there to sell a gun and make sure that you're not, coming in buzzed on dope or drunk off beer,
or a criminal or whatever.
A criminal. Your family should be able to say, "Hey, look, Josh has been sleeping all day, or he hasn't been, doing the things that he likes to do."
If a guy comes in and let's say he does want to use a gun to harm himself, and he goes to a gun store for some reason to buy it, if that's even possible. I mean, I don't think that would happen, but I mean, who knows? It may happen. Anyway, let's say he did do that. How is somebody supposed to know them within 5 seconds or 5 minutes of meeting somebody? This guy's probably going to kill himself. Can't sell him this gun. Yeah, I just don't see that happen.
I mean, impossible to know, impossible. And to be perfectly honest, I don't think suicide should count in the gun crime statistics that we see. From the ATF, any of that, or the Justice Department, any of that. I think it's ridiculous.
Technically, is that a crime?
No, but they always show it in the death statistics.
In statistics.
But technically, suicide's not a crime, right?
No, I mean, I don't know who they'd prosecute.
It's illegal, I think.
You can't, it's illegal to try to kill yourself.
I think
they say there's no victimless crimes, right?
Yeah, I guess you would be committing homicide yourself, which. But you know what? I'll tell you what. With all the dumb laws that we see being tried to put into place, making suicide illegal would not even surprise me a little bit. Like, who are you going to prosecute? Like, obviously, they don't care. It would be
according to gun laws that would work, right? That would work.
Put the corpse in prison.
Yeah.
Someone said a warm hug. I totally agree that that's kind of what this is. It's interesting that the NSSF has gotten involved and puts out their pamphlets as well. But I don't know, that one's a tough one for me. I don't think the gun affects it. They say that there's statistics that say in places where gun ownership is higher, the rate of suicide is higher. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's correlation or causation or any of that stuff. Just this is definitely a biased video from Vice News. And guys, just a quick repeat here. If you do need to call somebody, it's 1-800-273-8255. That's 1-800-273-TALK, or you can text 741-741, and that is the suicide hotline. Call them before you make a choice that is, non-reversible.
Yep. Gun Snob said if they listen to WLS, they would know the number by heart.
I do know it by heart, and not because I use it, just because I tell everyone else to use it if they need it. Army vet stopped shooter at high school football game. This comes to us from USA Today. Basically, this guy was out. It was, I think his kid, his son. They were celebrating and everything. He was cleaning up after tailgating. He looked over towards all the kids, heard a pop, 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 saw somebody shooting, wasn't sure who they were shooting. Moved over there, slammed the shooter up against the fence, restrained him. Right about then, undercover cop or an off-duty cop showed up and was able to take them into custody. And we earlier talked about fight, flight, freeze, posture, and submit. And this guy immediately went into fight mode, took the fight to the shooter, stopped it before anything bad happened. No one died. Both people who were shot were released. One was hit twice in the back and one was hit in the foot. And this guy saved the day. That is very heroic, in my opinion. And shows that, round of applause. Oh, I might even have that. Hold on.
Hey, he did more than what those people did in Starbucks, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, someone taking that action, taking that response. Maybe the people who are working in Starbucks are 16-year-old girls and, don't have the physical ability to stop the homeless guy or the crusty guy that was beating up their coworker.
Maybe if they're 21 years old, they should carry a gun.
Maybe this guy was a 3 deployment veteran, and he saw it happen, and he ran directly towards the sound of gunfire and stopped even worse things from happening. And I commend him. Let me just find his name real quick because he deserves for people to hear his name.
His name is fitting.
What is it? I don't see it.
Patrick Shields.
Patrick Shields shielded people from being murdered by a crazy idiot.
This is a conversation we have a lot, and not only between us but other people. So if you're in a situation like that where you do hear gunfire. What would you do? I think, and I mean, obviously, you probably don't know till you're in the moment, but
Yeah.
I mean, what I would like to say is that if I had my family with, say, in Walmart or this situation or whatever, if I had my family with me, I would definitely try to make sure first and foremost that they're at safety and stuff like that. But it would be hard on my mind knowing that every gunshot was potentially somebody dying. And
That you ran away from
I
the
don't
fight.
know if I could run away, just call the cops and let them handle it. I just don't know if I could put my head around that. So I don't know if I could do that or not.
Yeah, if you look at him, 3 tours in the Army, everything he knows is ingrained in his brain to run into that fight. So, yeah, hoorah for him for being such a soldier. The only small little part of that again is the civilian versus the Army guy, right? A lot of us think, and we have this mindset in our head that we always want to be the hero.
Right.
And if things went south for this guy, that story would have been a bad story.
Right.
Hero attempts to save a life, blah, 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 and loses his own. But you know what? It's like you said, it's going to have to be a decision that we're going to have to make if we ever get involved in that situation that springs upon us.
Yeah. And we could talk about this for hours. Andy, you know from personal experience that I talk very often about umbrella of protection, who's under that umbrella, and these impossible choices that we have to make when faced with traumatic situations, just the chaos that goes on around us. And, Josh, I hear you. I understand that 100%. And, if that person is going to harm me or mine, and clearly this guy's son was over there, so that person was under his umbrella of protection, and he put his life on the line because of that. Had his son not been over there, would he have done the same? Probably, because that's what he's been trained to do.
Right.
But for the average civilian, the more we think about this today, the more decisions that we make today on how we want to react, it's very much more likely that we would actually react that way when faced with a situation. When we walk around just being surprised by everything bad that happens in life, we don't know how to respond and we go hands on head. But when we think about it, when we plan for it, when we visualize it and what we would do and make plans based on what we see around us and situations that could possibly happen, it's much more likely that just we as civilians who don't have military training will react in the way that we want to react when the time comes.
I agree. I think so. I think that's a good answer.
Trump claims to be close to a bump stock ban. This comes to us from Reuters. Basically, I mean, everyone's seen the news where he said, we're knocking out bump stocks. We're in the final 2 or 3 weeks. I'll be able to write out bump stocks. Damn it.
F Trump.
This was something.
I protected you, Kenny. That way you don't have to do,
This was something used by one maniac. There are millions of bump fire stocks. I hate bump fire stocks. They're stupid. I've got 2 of them. They're ridiculous. I don't even like them. I used them for about 5 minutes and then took them off. But this is something used by a bad person one time to end lives. And somehow this deserves legislation from the highest level.
Allegedly used by one person.
Let's say that 100% we're sure that he did. It doesn't change the fact that one person used an everyday object for evil, and now suddenly our top level of our United States government needs to be involved. Our executive branch of the United States government is involved in banning this thing that one person used for foul deeds.
Let's say this. Anything that tries to hinder our Second Amendment is an infringement on our Second Amendment, regardless whether it be bump stocks or the NFA, which is a total infringement on our rights, or anything like that. It's a complete infringement. I mean, period. No matter what happens.
Yeah, I agree. For me, it's I'm pro-Trump, as many of us are. Some aren't. For me, it's like, damn it, man. I've been fighting this thing with many people saying, don't worry, he's not going to do it. Trump's got a good card that he likes to play. And then now it comes out and I'm like, man, I'm going to have to eat crow on this one, which sucks. My bigger question to me is, how's he going to reclassify this? How is this law going to come in effect where he's specifically just banning bump stocks and it's not going to affect triggers and binary triggers and everything else? That's what kind of scares me more than anything.
That's what I was afraid of. I did vote for Trump for that reason, of the fact that to me he was the lesser of the 2 evils. Because I know that if Hillary would have been president, it'd been long gone, a long time ago probably. But I mean we would have fought for it and stuff like that, but you know what I mean. Anyway, so I mean, he did this a couple months ago. Whenever the whole Las Vegas thing happened, like right after that, he was talking about banning them too. Anyway, so it's not a surprise to me, honestly. But I've always heard, Trump is not a pro-gun president. He is not. He did what he had to do to win the presidency.
Yeah, I agree with that. It baffles me. I just don't understand. And maybe it's not because one maniac used it to end people's lives. Maybe it's because it purely exists only because the NFA exists and it's a loophole and they're just trying to close this loophole. But again, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for our executive level of government to be involved in something so trivial. I mean, who was it? Who makes the bump stocks? I can't even remember the name now.
I don't even know. That's how stupid they are.
Bumpfire USA is one of them, but the other company, the main one, I know.
Didn't they go out of business?
They went out of business already. Yeah.
Now, Fostech had the bump ski, didn't they?
I think.
Something like that.
That's been a few years. But yeah, they were the one that kind of brought the bumpfire stock to the forefront. And Slide Fire. Thank you, guns.
I know a friend that won one at the TGC panel last year, or this past year.
Yeah,
I know. Anyway,
so,
I've got two of them as far as the government knows.
So imagine they make them illegal, and they going to come door to door, and they're going to come get them. I mean, think about this. People manufacture meth every day. Meth kills people every day. Meth is still illegal, still on the streets.
Yeah,
these bump fire stocks are still going to be on the streets.
Yeah.
I mean,
we could probably make a bump fire stock over here on our holster making equipment.
You can bump fire from your hip. You can bump fire from your shoulder, as Tim from Military Arms, displayed. I can't bump fire very well. Josh can, but I can't. So, but it can happen. You don't have to have a bump fire stock to do that.
You shoot topless very well, though.
I do shoot topless pretty good, I gotta say.
Through that. All right, so I guess we'll see what happens, but we've seen amnesty doesn't work, so they're going to have to not only ban them but confiscate them. And I'm going boating this weekend, so
yeah, me too.
Yep.
Man shoots and kills wife while cleaning his gun. This comes to us from KTVB.com. They were cleaning guns together, and officers respond to a reported shooting. A 20-year-old woman had a gunshot wound, taken to the hospital where she was pronounced dead. Said that he didn't mean to shoot his wife, that he had accidentally discharged one of the guns after reassembling it. Just freaking awful. And safety violations clearly violated. And just this is the kind of stupid, idiotic thing that shouldn't even happen.
This is what makes gun owners look bad.
Yeah.
And, there's 4 safety rules for a reason. Not only that, when you're cleaning your firearm or anything like that, you should not have any rounds near you at all. Just take them out of the room, take them away from the table, do whatever you got to do to get them away from you.
Yep.
And make sure you physically and visibly check your chambers and make sure they're empty. I mean, it's so easy to do, but yet so easy to neglect when you're around firearms.
Yeah. I do not even allow ammunition in this studio under any circumstances, just because we do use firearms and show firearms and display them. However, I also, under no circumstances, will break any of the 4 rules at any point with these firearms. Just stupid and ridiculous. Andy, it sounded like you had a counterpoint.
Yeah, you know what? To be honest with you, I want to know how much life insurance his wife has, because that just
that's pretty good.
I'd be looking at his debt and how much life insurance is there, and I don't know, reassembling a gun. I mean, yeah, sure, accidents happen; they happen all day. But boy, I'd investigate that a little further.
Dude, I didn't even think about that. That's totally plausible.
Yeah, shooting remains under investigation. Police have not yet determined whether charges will be filed. If this is a negligent discharge, that can also put. We make jokes about desktops and stuff, but like negligent discharges can have very far-reaching consequences. And again, I would suggest SCD for stuff like that. Second call defense. Firearmsradio.tv/SCD covers you even in cases like that. So lives can be changed in an instant. I highly recommend having something to protect you.
Raise your hand if you've had a negligent discharge.
At the age of 14, when I was handed a firearm, not given any instruction, yes, I did.
So, I mean, if anybody's ever trained at James Yeager's in a tactical response course at Camden, Tennessee, and has stayed in the team room, there is a passel of signs everywhere saying that you cannot clean your firearm in his house.
Yeah.
For that reason. He doesn't want an ND in his house.
Yeah.
Same way with like ammo and stuff like that. So I mean, it happens.
But
I'm sure it has happened.
It just happened. Not too
Yeah, it
long
just
ago, didn't
happened. I mean,
Yeah. Well, I was at the site training for the bullpup shoot not too long ago, and there were new signs this year that I'd never seen before that said no firearms under any circumstances allowed in the lodge area. They must be turned over to the armory. And when we walked in, I was like, what the hell's that? And everyone's like, I don't know, whatever. And I was like, wait a minute. This is like a huge, big thing. Like this is a place that firearms training. And so we were all kind of just left wondering. No one was really concerned about it, but I was like, this is weird. And then Aaron happened to find a picture with a bullet hole in it, and it had a note, a sticky note on it that said, "This is why we don't allow firearms in the lodge." Apparently, it would have been cleaning, had an ND, didn't hurt anybody, but destroyed a picture, and now they've put it into place because of things like this. So, people, don't be a freaking moron, and make sure that you're following the safety rules when you're cleaning your firearms.
I was just looking in the chat, and somebody was saying about the guy that was at the range and put the gun up to his friend's head or whatever, and the RSO came up to him, basically almost knocked him out.
That was awesome.
Dude, that was, I mean, that right there, obviously, it gives it, even though he may not be a gunner, he might have been written those things. You don't know. I mean, obviously, the stuff that he was doing, I mean, it wasn't like it didn't look to me like he was a gun owner anyway. It looked like to me he was just out there to take pictures with him with a gun because, hey, I'm holding a gun, whatever. But, yeah, I wish that RSO should have knocked him out, dude.
Yeah, he should have. Stealing from our class, Jeremy Gill, other co-host from the After Action Project, he says this pretty often. If you don't believe these negligent discharges and all these stupid things happen, go follow any anti-gun social media page out there. You'll see how many responsible gun owners out there make mistakes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. 100% agree. Officer shoots himself in the leg while practicing with a Serpa holster. Oh, that's just unfair. Serpas are fine. Anyway, he was practicing at the Colonial Shooting Academy, which is a gun range, and practicing drawing from a Serpa. For those that don't know, the Serpa style holster basically has an active retention button that is directly in line with the trigger. Most training advocates suggest that you don't use a Serpa style trigger, although you can use them safely with training and practice and all these different things. But I even believe that even with that, obviously, as is the case of the story, bad things can actually happen. What really happens is you put pressure on that button to release that active retention of the firearm. And then as you draw upward, you don't release that pressure on your index finger, which then when it clears the holster causes that finger to curl in towards the trigger, which results in a lot of these negligent discharges with this style of holster. Again, sure, you can practice it. Sure. Do people carry Serpa style holsters and don't end up shooting themselves? Yeah, absolutely. But the odds are, because of the way it is, especially for people who are untrained and not practiced, Serpa style holsters are dangerous. Looks like the cop's going to be okay. The shooting academy said he wasn't being trained under our trainers or anything like that.
It wasn't on us, guys. It wasn't on us.
It wasn't me.
What do you guys think?
I think they're trying to save face because they're saying it wasn't on them. But anyway, but the Serpa style holster, we make holsters, not for a living or anything, but we make holsters on the side. And I would not recommend anybody buying a Serpa holster. I would not recommend anybody buying a Black Hawk holster, just because of those reasons. Or I guess that is Serpa style holster. But anyway, why not, if he's a police officer, have one of the ones that have the latches that come over, the secondary, what do they call them?
The hood.
Yeah, the hood. Just have one of those. I don't know why you would go the cheap way and have the other one.
Well, actually, most departments actually require triple retention, which means they have to have 2 forms of active retention as well. So they've got just normal firearm retention based on the gun. Then they've actually got the button, the Serpa style button, which is usually not directly in line with the trigger, but they have to release that, as well as a thumb latch on the inside of the holster, which releases the hood. And they actually have to practice that draw stroke. I was lucky enough to train thousands of MPs that all had that triple retention system. So, I mean, yeah, with practice and everything, clearly they can practice their way out of making mistakes like this, but just, natural physiology of our hands sometimes gets in the way of that.
Yeah. We run into those in class too, as I'm sure you see them often. And I just always tell them, hey, look, if you want to carry that, that's fine. Just understand the mechanics of how that holster works and train a lot for it. I did see a new holster that came out pretty recently. I'm not going to be able to tell you the name, but instead of using the finger, it uses a thumb brake. It's kind of a button that you push down and it just takes your finger off the trigger. I really like those, but I mean, what do you do? Like you said, most law enforcement agencies still require those. So, to dog the Serpo holster all the time. Yeah, personally, I have one, but do I carry it? I don't. So
I mean, if you think about it, when you use the thumb latches, where does your finger normally go anyway? It goes right over where the trigger guard would be at.
True.
So, I mean, like you said, it is practicing draw stroke and all that stuff like that. It does come into effect, but I would not cheap out, me personally, and get one like that.
Yeah, same. I mean, I think I have one in my box of holsters that I no longer use. So
I ain't gonna tell you I never had one because I have had one.
yeah,
But I'm not recommending it.
Same.
I've seen pictures.
Moving into the I'm offended segment, VOTA resorts to training societies miscreants. This comes to us from leoaffairs.com. There's an anti-police militia group. I actually saw this video. I had no idea what the group was, but apparently it's the Huey P. Newton Gun Club. And the spokesman's name, I'm only going to say it not because I care what his name is, but because it's funny. His name is Babu. Dang it. Where did it go?
I'm going to say this. When you had VOTA on the WLS, man, that was a good show.
Episode 200. President Babu Omawale basically said, we're in a rally with downtown Houston, and these mother effer crackers done got aggressive. Now we have to take SH blah blah from a defensive peaceful march to a tactical situation. So I saw this and I was like, okay, well, what they're teaching seems a little stupid. And then VOTA even directly contradicts some of the teachings of the other guy who's instructing there. And I was like, dang, but just the fact that he's associated with a group that's basically, calling people crackers. And I mean, this is a racist group. I actually reached out before the show to Maj Toure to get his opinion on the group and the situation, because sometimes I want to make sure that I'm not looking at things from too much of a suburban white viewpoint. And I want to get other viewpoints and be like, what do you think? I haven't heard back from him yet, but I am very curious to kind of hear what he thinks of A, the group in general, B, VOTA working with the group. My guess is that he'll be like, no, they're stupid. But what do you guys think?
I would hope so anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, VOTA, man, there's not really much I can't say about him that people don't already know. That are in the training community or firearms community or something like that. Obviously, you watch enough YouTube videos, you watch enough or listen to many more podcasts, stuff like that. I mean, you're going to know who he is, and for all the wrong reasons. Mm-hmm. I was kind of like not on his side, but I was like giving him the benefit of the doubt. Honestly, I really was. I was like, well, maybe people just misunderstand him, stuff like that. What makes somebody qualified to be a trainer? Does making somebody an LEO does that make them qualified to be a trainer? Does somebody just being in the military, does that make them qualified to be a trainer? No. So to me, a trainer for me that I'm going to go and get training from is going to be somebody that I know is definitely better than me at what I'm trying to do. But listening to him on the WLS podcast, man, that opened my eyes to how much of a retard he is.
And I still think that he gets a bum rap. Like, he does some things that I think are ridiculously stupid, but I mean, the internet has it out for him. But he thrives on that attention. So it's not.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I don't want to throw away the baby with the bathwater, because not everything he does is ridiculous and stupid. Just a lot of it is. But now he's working with this club, who also says, we're not going to let white people come to black and brown neighborhoods and dictate what's going on in our neighborhoods. We're not going to let white people come through our neighborhoods and intimidate anybody. A post has been going around on Facebook of VOTA actually praising Hezbollah and terrorist organizations. And it's just kind of more of that same. Andy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. For a guy that praises Hezbollah and all that stuff, I mean, everything goes out the window. A couple things in this, I don't know about this group much because I did see it last minute and I didn't really research it. But the problem that concerns me here is a lot of people that are seeking firearms training that are not in this industry and not in the gun world like we are, they have no idea what's good and what's bad. So
True.
everything that they're being taught by this guy, they think is the best thing in the world. Like, this dude is super tactical. Look at his fast Instagram moves and stuff like that. That's what's dangerous, and that's what scares me. Now I'm going to say something that a lot of people probably might get pissed at me, and I've said it before, is, you know, if Vada would take some time and he would actually start learning proper training and stop doing a lot of the stupid crap, that guy'd make an actually pretty good firearms instructor, because his marketing, everything he's doing, I mean, is pretty damn good for what he's doing. I mean, he's gaining popularity. Yeah, most of it's for the bad things, but if he would just do stuff that was not unsafe, I don't know. I think he'd probably do a lot better.
Bad publicity, right?
That's very true.
Yeah. I also will say that I don't think that so, I mean, there's so many different things, right? Like, there are people in the instruction field that think that there is never a time ever under any circumstances should a firearm be pointed at another human being. Well, I've seen situations where I'm like, okay, you know, I'm uncomfortable with that, but that's an acceptable method of teaching in this specific instance. And the instances are few and far between. So everyone criticizes him because he points firearms at people in a class. And I think that there's valuable learning that occurs because of that. I don't necessarily 100% agree with it. I don't necessarily 100% agree with anything that I've ever seen an instructor do. But
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I agree. That's one of the things I was going to say, that I wouldn't think everybody's like, oh, for firearm, you know, safety rules and stuff like that, which is true. But there's certain things you can learn from what he's doing, as far as, like, you know, pointing the guns at people and stuff like that. Because if you've never had a gun pointed at you before,
You don't know how you're going to react.
yeah. And not only that, there's several other trainers out there that are trying to push the envelope and basically make you, okay, when you go to the range and you draw and you fire and all that stuff, and you're done, and you go to assess the situation, you know, that kind of thing. A lot of people are doing the fire, pull it back to your sternum or whatever, and you look left and right, you know, that kind of thing. You leave the gun pointed down range, that whole deal.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are telling you head and turn around on that. Some people are telling you to, you know, take it with you, whatever. The reason why they don't want you to take your firearm with you is because they don't want you to point it at other people on the line. Like, that's range rules. You just don't want to point it at people. But if you're in a controlled environment where you know there's no, you know, ammunition in the room or whatever, and you physically check it, that kind of deal, maybe I don't know.
Be very, very case by case, and I'm not advocating this by any means. What I guess the point I was trying to make is, let's use Rob Pincus as an example. He's a friend. I highly respect his teachings. I think he's a fantastic instructor. I do not agree with every single thing that he does, but when I take his classes, I try to absorb as much as possible, put it into practice, because clearly I do not know everything, or do I even claim to. And then I keep what I wanted, and I discard what I didn't want. But if I tried to tell Rob Pincus in his class that he was wrong and these were the reasons why, I don't think that would go very well for me. You cannot tell Rob Pincus that he is wrong about something because he truly believes in what he teaches and why he teaches it. I think this is no different from Voda. He truly believes in what he teaches and why he teaches it. I disagree with an immense amount of things that he does. But if I took a class from him, which is highly unlikely, I would.
Yeah, right. Come on. We all know you want to go see him.
I would try to take some things from it, and I would leave other things on the table. And I think it's kind of the exact same thing. Like, we love Rob Pincus. We don't like Voda, but even I think that's personality wise, as far as just thinking that they know exactly the right way to do things, they're very similar in their conviction, the courages of their conviction, I guess is the best way to say it. And Rob Pincus, I'm not trying to say that you are Voda. I do not believe that for one second. I just used you as a shining example, as opposed to the negative connotations that we get when we talk about Voda. Andy?
Yeah, I agree. You hit the nail on the head on everything.
All right, cool. Anyway, I do think that his association or his praise of Hezbollah and working with this organization is crappy and ridiculous.
Maybe you had to change your heart.
Yeah, I don't know. Kind of silly. All right, let's move into the full auto news segment and we'll start wrapping this thing up. I didn't see if you guys picked any stories, but my story is Hunter near death after bear he shot rolls on top of him.
Yeah.
This comes to us from Fox 5 San Diego. I was reading something else at the same time. The story starts off with bear meat is no delicacy and hunters almost never eat it, which is setting a bias for the entire story, but whatever. Two Alaska men went hunting for some big game over the weekend. They were hunting, saw a bear on a ridge above them. The injured animal rolled down the slope, dislodging rocks along the way straight towards the two men. And one of them, the 28-year-old, the other was 19 years old, was hit by both a rock and the tumbling bear and is now in the hospital suffering from life-threatening injuries. I'm like, I don't know how high that ridge was, but in my mind, I could just see that it was like the scene in Austin Powers with the steamroller where he's just like screaming, "Stop!" And then you pan out and it's like a football field away.
Move.
Exactly. But you know, I hope that he's okay. Hunting bears is absolutely something that people do. Conservation is what hunting is about, and bears are no different in that situation. So I have no problem with it whatsoever. I know Matt DeVito from Downrange Firearm Training was just on the show a couple weeks ago, and he talked about his bear hunt. Gladly, he wasn't struck by a bear. Any other thoughts on this story?
Man, Alaska. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
In Alaska, bears are different than what they are here. You know, we got bears in Tennessee here. You know,
Yeah, we have black bears.
Great Smoky Mountains. You know, but bears are a lot different in Alaska. They're probably the size of a freaking car in Alaska. So I don't imagine one falling on somebody would. He's lucky to be alive. To be honest with you.
Right.
Yep.
And they said that he was on a ledge above him, right? And then, like when they shot at him, rocks came down, and also the bear came down. So
I'm thinking though, if it's a ridge, he probably didn't just like sneak up on him. They just probably saw him like up there, like 50 yards away or more. I'm thinking, unless he just surprised him and he's like right above him. But you really had to just.
What if it just scared the shit out of him? And he was like, "Ha, bam!"
I don't know, Andy.
I don't know. I just, karma. That's what you get for shooting a bear. I don't know. I'm a hunter too. So, yeah, if you think about it, though, Sean, it's probably what your girlfriend feels like getting rolled over on every day, too.
She in the hospital.
But they say that bears, they were talking about how bears are just like, pounds of flubber because they're fattening themselves up for the winter and stuff like that right now. So I imagine that it would be pretty heavy.
900 to 1,400 pounds is what they said in the article.
That's insane.
That's a Mazda
timing.
It's
timing ever.
All right, that's awesome, guys. That'll wrap it up for our news stories tonight. I want to hear, before we go any further, what you guys have been up to. Andy, tell us what you've been up to. Tell us what's next on the After Action project and where people can find all the stuff you do online.
Sure. Well, it's easy for us. The After Action project. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on YouTube. We review instructors and their courses with the students' opinion on there as well. So come check us out. We need more likes and stuff. We'd like to grow for sure. Pretty much what I've been doing is been on the range kind of often. As I said, I'm an instructor. I love doing it. It's literally my life, as it is with all of us. I'm looking forward to going to Colorado Springs this coming weekend and training with you, Sean, there at Canaz Tactical and a bunch of other Patreons. So if you guys aren't what's that?
I said I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be so fun. If you guys aren't We Like Shooting Patreons, you guys are missing out and you're a bunch of losers.
Dang, bold statements from Andy Montoya.
That's right.
Albuquerque.
Address is.
I was looking it up real quick. No, thanks very much, Andy. You did a great job tonight. Thank you so much for being with us on the show.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Josh's, what you been up to? Where can they find you?
Man, we've been up to all kinds of stuff. We just got back from the Iraq Veteran 8888 Annual Range Day, where Sean took a glorious picture of me and posted it all over his Instagram, which made me very happy. But
on Facebook, had 120 shares.
That's awesome. So we just went over 1,000 subscriber mark on our YouTube channel, and we've just been doing this for a year. Or not even a year. I think we've been doing it for about 10 months.
10 months, yeah.
But we love doing YouTube videos. We started out kind of doing a lot of Facebook Live stuff, but we moved more toward the YouTube videos. And they're just fun for us to do, and I think it comes through on our videos. So if you can, go over to our YouTube channel, Black Diamond Guns of Gear, and subscribe. We're also on Instagram and Facebook at Black Diamond Guns of Gear. So Bring it on.
I love it, guys. Andy and I just trained a couple weeks ago in Albuquerque. Together, we did the force on force stuff and medical. And Andy is a good friend of mine, so pleasure to have you here. And definitely check out the training they do if you're in Albuquerque, any of that stuff. Andy, remind us one more time the name of the company.
Practical Defense Training.
There you go. And the Joshes, first time I met you in person, instantly loved you guys. You're definitely part of the crew. And man, can't wait to see all you guys again. Andy's this weekend. Josh's, I don't know. I'm sure we'll see each other very soon.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for being on the show. Truly appreciate it. I thought it was an excellent episode. We covered a lot of ground. And don't forget, guys, This Week in Guns is produced by Kenny Ortega and is a production of the Firearms Radio Network. I'll catch you on the flip flop.